Okay, we're on Daf Yud Aleph, starting a new mimer based on the pasuk in the Parshas Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. So the Alter Rebbe raises three questions. One, why does it say Hashem's name twice? Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, Havaya twice. Two, why does it interrupt? Well, why did the Chachamim set it up that in between that pasuk and the pasuk that follows it in the Parsha, which is V'yahavta, that they inserted the Baruch Shem? Three, why does it use, or what is the understanding that the word Shema also means to come together? Like we have a pasuk in the Sefer Shmuel that it says that Shaul gathered the people together, and it uses a derivative of this word Shema. And it also means Shema as in to understand. Now, V'yahavta is both an instruction, you must love Hashem your God. It also is a foretelling, you will come to love Hashem your God. Like the pasuk says, that if you will think about the idea that Havaya Echad, it will ipso facto bring you to a love for Hashem. That it's an assurance that you will love Hashem b'chol levavcha. That means with both Yetzer Hara and Yetzer Tov. That even the Yetzer Hara will ultimately come batal to the love of Hashem. Now, everybody says this, of course, twice a day, Shachris and Ma'ariv. And nevertheless, who reaches to the level of V'yahavta? But the point being that the pasuk says, "Behold, I place before you life, and choose life. Love Hashem your God with all your heart, because He is your life." That is, that every single person wants to serve Hashem because he knows that the choice is up to him. And that's why it says, choose life. Now, this seems odd. Who doesn't want to choose life? Everybody wants to be alive. And a person who loves life, even if he loves total tainaguli el mazeh, he wants life, to love Hashem. So how is it possible that the Yetzer Hara itself, it loves life? Who doesn't? So now we have to understand, what do we mean by this term chayim or life? Now, the pasuk says, Translation, Hashem said on the second day of creation, let there be the atmosphere and separate, and Hashem made the atmosphere and He separated between the waters in the heavens and the waters below. Now this requires understanding. Why does the pasuk here change from all the other statements that it uses the word twice? Hashem said there should be a separation, and Hashem separated. Now, we begin with a premise based on a pasuk in Iyov that tells us that by understanding how we function, we can understand how Hashem functions. So, for example, just like within a person that his life force is driven by his heart, similarly, his voice, his speech, all comes from his heart to his lungs, and his lungs to the windpipe. And this is what produces a voice and speech that come from them. Even the brain also receives its life force from the heart, that comes from the heart to the brain, to think and to contemplate. And this is the idea that we draw down our spiritual life from our heart, and that's manifest in our spoken word and our thoughts. Similarly, it is drawn down from the heart into our physical life to every one of our limbs, and it is also the blood that is drawn down from the heart to all of our body parts, and from here it becomes the nourishment for our body. And this becomes from the food that we eat, that becomes digested within our intestines, and the healthy parts are driven to the heart, and the waste is dispatched of. And all of this is through the various screening processes and filters that are called the Chotzer HaKaved, the region of the liver that separates out between the healthy parts and that go to the respiratory system versus the digestive system. Similarly, in the spiritual sense, we describe Hashem as Tzur Levavi, the founder, the shaper of our heart, that the general life force that Hashem gives to all of us. Now, here again, there are two forms of expression. The first one is called Mayim El Yonim, or Tainugi El Yonim, that Hashem has pleasure in this world, the alignments with this world. And the second is called the Mayim Tachtenim. These are the pseilis, the waste, the indulgences of this physical world that are manifest through these various filters and screens that separate out between the higher waters and the lower waters. And this is thus the instruction of V'charta V'chayim, that is in the Chayim El Yonim, in the Eitz HaChayim, the Tanugi El Yonim, and to be disgusted by Tanugim of the physical world. This is the instruction. We're going to choose a pleasure. It's either a sensory, temporary pleasure of this physical world, or it's the alignment and the eternal sense of oneness with Hashem. And this can be reached through the recitation of the Shema, both in the morning and in the evening. So we begin with an analysis of the very word Shema itself. it is called Shem and Ayin Rabasi. If you look in a Sefer Torah, the Ayin letter of Shema is enlarged. This is representative of the 7 midos. We recognize it from the pasuk in Divrei Hayomim. Say it every day in the davening. L'cha Hashem Hagdula v'Hagvura. We list out the 7 midos. Each one is subsumed of 10 characteristics. And Shem, Shema, Yisrael, Shin, Mem, Ayin is the oisius that come from the midos, the name, like an identifier that allows for interaction with that outside of myself, that which is drawn down and spread out from nothing into a something that is given an identity, that Hashem's name that gives existence to all. And this is what it means when it says, Ki nivzgav shmei levadu. We only can reach his name. That the Shema is what we can grasp. Hoidu, his glory is on the heavens and the earth. That even on the heavens and earth, even the heavens, all you have is the glory of Hashem, an inside, a ray. And this all comes from a word of Hashem through which he created the world, that can be divided up. One day it's Hashem creates light, the next day he creates the atmosphere, and every day he recreates all of creation. The point being that every day we reveal that which is irrelevant for that day. We're now in Yud Alpha and Gimel. That is the level of letters and speech that is drawn out from the midah that is appropriate for that day. On the first day, it's Yehir, it's the midah Sachesed. The second day, it's Yehirakia, the midah of Gvura. And on Shabbos, we get everything subsumed into one. Just like a person who thinks of something, he speaks of something, when he combines all of his words, all of his spoken, he comes back to that essential point. That's the Shabbos Hashem Alekecha. That's why Shabbos belongs to Hashem. So now we say Shema Yisrael. What is Yisrael? Yisrael is the whole purpose for why Hashem decided to create the world. That was the initial idea. So when he will contemplate that Havaya is Elokeinu, that is, the name Havaya is the level of Tzimtzum and Ispashtus that is drawn down to become our personal Hashem, this level of Machshavi Ilah. That becomes the force of creation of the neshama that is created from this loftiest level that is higher than even Havayecha, which is Tzimtzum and Mispashus, and it's drawn down to be the concept of Dibur, that this is the source and the creation of the 7 heavens and the earth and the 4 directions of the world that are alluded to in the Ches Dalid. That is manifest from the Aleph, or the oneness of Hashem, the Ches, the 7 heavens and the earth, into the Dalid, all 4 corners of the earth. That's how you get a Chod. And like we said before, that from the heart, it dispatches life force that enables speech, and also to the brain to think, that this illustration that comes from thought is that loftier level. And these are the 2 times that we have Havaya, Lekeinu Havaya Echad. Similarly, also at the higher level from Hashem's perspective, what does it mean, Havaya Lekeinu, that is in the neshama of the Yidden? That this was the whole purpose of creation. Is far greater than that which is drawn down and through Dibur, even in the level of the Malachim. Like it says, the spirit of Hashem's mouth creates all the hosts of heavens. The point being that the level of Havaya Echad only is a reference to the Hishtalshalis that comes in Shemayim Va'aretz, that this is the 6 directions and the Gashmis. And this is why we say that Hashem is Echad, because all of this matter, all of creation, the vast empire of galaxies are all completely subsumed within Hashem. And this level of Vayelekenu is to draw down from a level of Yachid, of absolutely only Hashem, that the Eibishter is exclusive. Like it says, Zera Yitzchak Yechidoi, the Yidden are exclusive, the level of the source of all life that is higher even than a spiritual life. This is why we only refer to it in the term Va'atah. You, in all of your essence, give life to everything. The level of Atah is Aleph through Taf, and the Hey Motzoi Sapeh, the 5 organs of articulation, the throat, the teeth, the larynx, that this is what is sustaining all of existence. Like we say, Yochid Chayolami Melech, you recognize it from the davening, that the Eibishter is one, is absolutely one, and the source of all life is only from his quality of Melech. Because in the essence of Hashem is life, and the quality, the aspect of life that we have is only from the Malchus level of Hashem. We think about this, that Avayla came to this level of Yochid Mamish, like we say, he is one like my beloved Dove in Shir Hashirim, that is, that the Neshama is called absolutely Yechida, because it receives only from the level of Yachid, and through the contemplation it automatically comes to V'haftas Hashem Lekecha, B'chol Levavcha, the level of Yechida Shebenefesh, that within every spark of the person, there is this idea that he is the whole purpose of creation. Regarding this, did Moshe say, they embarked or they encamped across from Beis Pa'ar. That's in the Parsha. That is, that when Moshe is foretelling the Yidden about the Mishnah Torah, the review of Torah and the whole Sefer Devarim, it's specifically across from Beis Pa'ar. Pa'ar is an Avodah Zarah, that he wants to draw down a chayas from above to the Mayim Tachtenim, that even into that pursuit of worldly pleasure, even into the rebellious, gluttonous son that it talks about in Parshas Kitzeitze. That's why the people became so shaken when they came to Beis Pa'ar that they literally lost control of their bowels. And this is what it means, V'nizga b'gei mul Beis Pa'ar, that he encamped across in Beis Pa'ar. This is the level of total lowliness that is staring into Beis Pa'ar, and that's where Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to reach. Because each person who followed after Beis Pa'ar, they destroyed their relationship with Hashem. They became as if they weren't. But you attach yourself to Hashem. So Moshe Rabbeinu used that background to illustrate the capacity of Torah to reach down even to this lowly of circumstances, and to remind the Yidden not to fall into the Beis Pa'ar consequence. And this is what it means, V'nizgav b'gei, that is, that the union of Kriya Shema, which is settled, that it is the level of total bittul. We devote ourselves to Hashem. So before the B'chorban Bayis Rishon, we had lofty neshamas, and they could reach this level of Yahavta through contemplation. They said Shema, they went boom right away to Yahavta. But after the Chorban, we're not so holy. So we need to have the assistance of the level of Baruch Shem Toin Mechusay, Kabbalah Malchus Shemayim. Now we understand why can't everybody just immediately go to the Yahavta level? Because in order to come now to the Yahavta level, there has to be Kabbalah Malchus Shemayim, which is indicated in this inserted pasuk of Baruch Shem, that we have to say before we get to the Yahavta. And this is the repression of the Sitra Achra. This is what it means to put aside our will. A bittul of Ratzon of a level of Avodah and Kabbalah soul. That we can't, Hashem can't be the king without us. We have to have our stature, oimimus, even though we have our own identity, but we are then voluntarily mevatel it to Hashem. And anything that does not mevatel its Ratzon is not really in the service of Hashem. Bittul Ratzon means literally to do the opposite of what our impulse is, both in avoiding evil and in the pursuit of good, because in the avoidance of evil, we have to sanctify ourselves, even in that which is permissible. And this is the level of, or this is helped along when we make a neder, because like the pasuk says in Parshas Matos, that when a person makes a neder being a fence to prevent the person from stumbling, he brings himself to holiness. And this is, when our Amud Daled, the avarabba of all of your hearts. And sometimes we say that cleanliness brings a person to be detached. That is, that before the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, we had the level of neder, but now we would prefer to say bli neder. This is our process. Now, also in the asay type, what do we do? The opposite. That is that we do more than what we are ordinarily inclined to do. Like the example that historically they studied every concept 100 times, and if a person does it 101 times, that 101st edition is changing his character. So to by tzedakah, that the one extra pruta, small coin that he gives beyond his routine, this is what is transformative. And this is the product of Kabbalah soul, regarding which we say, V'yahavta b'chol me'yadecha. Like we say, Or zarul tzaddik, the light that is planted for the tzaddik and is planted in the land. This is the idea that we cannot change from one to another except through bittul, like the analogy of a seed. That when we plant a seed, it doesn't immediately sprout. It first has to subsume itself into the soil. And when it does that, it is able to draw the nutrients from the soil and sprout. So too in the nimshal, when a person is mevatel himself and he restrains his sitra achra, then he can come to this level of loving Hashem b'chol me'yadecha, a level of such great love that it can't even be contained in a keli. This is b'chol nafshecha, is a love that he can sustain in his intellect, a level of a keli. But the level of b'chol me'yadecha cannot be sustained in any keli. That is, even his keli of malchus and the Torah Shebal Peh that he cries out is called the instructions of the king, what he can do, what you can't do, what's tummy, what's star, what's kosher, what's puzzle, etc. And this is now what we mean when we say, so shall you plant your seed in your name, The planting of the seed is this, or Zarua, this divine light, Ashrechem Zereya, and praised are those who plant, as we explained. And what does it mean? Your name, like it says by David, Vayas David Shem. This is the idea of Kabbalah Sol Shemai, Kabbalah Sol Machu Shemai, the level of bittul. That is, that the seed rots within the soil, and through that, it's able to produce sprouts. And this is why the Yidden are called my perfect ones, that they draw down this level that it should be revealed above. This is what it says, Lasid Lavai, that a garden came, a river came forth and it watered the garden, that this is the level of the Mayim Tachtainim, that they should yet be dispersed. And this is through Kabbalah Samach Shamayim B'Bechol Me'edecha, the level of this lower well that becomes the water that is giving life. And through its passing through the world, it is drawn down and it becomes the well that sprouts out and waters it. And this is what it means when the pasuk says, behold, I place before you life and good, death and evil. We explained before that life is what is higher than this screen and this filter. And death is what is the residue that is detached and discarded beyond this filter. Now, there is a ra that is worse than death, and that's the idea of the pa'or, that they made a value of the waste. And this is a far worse evil than even the waste itself, that they began to pursue the waste itself. And regarding this, it says that toiv is higher than life. Like it says, it is better one moment of tshuva and ma'asim tovim in this world than all of olam haba, because the goodness of God's kindness is better than life, because the life force of all worlds is only from the letters of Yud K. Yud K Hashem Tzorei Lamim, and the Yud creates olam haba, and they have no stature when you bring them up to Atzmasar Inside. And it's also like it says that life will give, Chachma will give life, that this is a level that is higher even than Chachma, a life but not B'chai v'lo b'chayim. Ki imcha, because with you and their essence is the source of life. That even this level of the source of life is only with you. It is totally surrendered and batal to you. And this is the separation that happens in the Rakia, and the two times that, so why it says twice, Yehi Rakia Vayihi, it not only says that Hashem said it, but that it then came, and this is what is achieved through B'chol Mi'odecha.